And people don't adhere to the facts these days in the way that maybe they once did. And what you do is so important in that regard, because I've also heard you talk about the facts and how if we can agree on the facts, we don't have to disagree on those, that we can actually, there's more in common. And it is still, a country where we at least agree to a set of facts, but that's not what's happening in particular with Donald Trump, not when it comes to the Republican Party. They don't seem to be beholden to facts.
Yeah, they're always accusing the Democrats or really any of their perceived enemies, the Republicans' perceived enemies, of doing precisely what the Republicans are doing. I mean, how absurd is it that they're yelling and screaming about the weaponization of the Department of Justice, the FBI, law enforcement agencies, when, we have reports about Donald Trump saying over and over again, I want the IRS to audit my enemies.
Right.
And former Chief of Staff John Kelly telling the president over and over again, it's illegal, it's immoral, it's going to get you in trouble. And he didn't care. It didn't matter that it was illegal and immoral. Donald Trump weaponized my beloved former professional home, the Department of Justice, in ways that made me want to scream every day. It drove friends and former colleagues of mine out of the Department of Justice, people who were doing the work of the American people, aggressively and honorably and ethically. And yet the Republicans sit around with these, Mickey Mouse committees on the weaponization of the federal government. Are you kidding me? And that goes to your point. When the Republicans do nothing but gaslight, when they don't make any arguments that are fact-based arguments, it's really hard to talk productively across the divide.
But with Mueller, and then we saw, Garland kind of dragging his heels a little bit. And I'm definitely not going to criticize Garland because I don't know what I don't know. But we do know that he took his time and was reluctant to go after Donald Trump. And it's that sort of double standard where it feels like justice actually starts to crumble because you're making exceptions that aren't really based in following the letter of the law.
Yeah. And I have always been a big supporter of Merrick Garland, but you also have to call it the way you see it. When I saw the gut-wrenching reporting by Carol Leonnig and others at the Washington Post that there was such reluctance and resistance to even open an investigation into Donald Trump when the evidence of his crimes was overwhelming. It was already in the public square. We saw it. And it went uninvestigated for a very long period of time. And here's the part that keeps me up at night, Joe. I think we're going to get there with respect to the insurrection. There will be a big old conspiracy, what we call a 371 conspiracy to commit offenses against or defraud the United States for the fake electors, for the insurrection, I believe. We obviously are already prosecuting Donald Trump, both federally and locally, for a number of felony offenses, the documents crimes, mishandling of national defense information, which, as you say, is in violation of our nation's espionage laws. There are the false business records crime in New York. He's about to be indicted by Fani Willis, perhaps under the Georgia RICO statutes in Georgia. So I am heartened that, albeit very late in the game, Jack Smith, I think, is going to get the nation where it needs to be. But here's the problem, particularly with Merrick Garland's tenure before he appointed special counsel. The crimes that Donald Trump committed while in office, right? He bribed and extorted President Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, by using congressionally appropriated funds in an unlawful way to leverage a dirty political favor from another world leader. Those are crimes that a novice prosecutor could prove in their sleep based on the evidence that was only publicly reported. And nothing has been done about that. Donald Trump committed as many as 10 obstruction of justice offenses to try to retain power, as documented meticulously by my former chief of homicide, full disclosure, Bob Mueller. And he said in his congressional testimony, he can be indicted the minute he leaves office. Think about this. All of those crimes that Donald Trump committed while president, for which he could have and should have been indicted the minute he left office. Nothing has been done about them as far as we know. What does that do? That is the Department of Justice putting its stamp of approval on that conduct for future presidents. That makes us a banana republic, or a banana republic -1. I cannot understand why there has been no movement on the crimes Donald Trump committed while in office, for which he could be prosecuted the minute he left office. We're in a hole right now that we really need to try to pull ourselves up out of.